All right. Welcome, everyone. Hey, this is Tom Buford, and welcome to the Attorney Success Podcast Show, where we interview, get to know, and learn from some of the top attorneys in the U.S. And I'm excited to introduce this week's guest, Alex Mehdipour from Mehdipour Law. And he's located in Los Angeles, California, which is an old home of mine from way back when. So thanks for being here, Alex. And just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your practice areas, what you guys focus on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tom. I appreciate it. We practice real estate and personal injury 50-50, mixture of both. Sometimes they cross over. We represent a lot of mold and habitability issues where there are personal injury within the real estate claims.
Right.
And then I do a lot of transactional purchase and sale agreements, leases. I just did a staging agreement. So wide variety of real estate transactional matters, some litigation as well. I have a couple open cases on that, but mostly trending towards personal injury, motor vehicle accidents, again, some crossovers, and then real estate transactional, and just a wide range of everything.
Right. Yeah, how's that work? So with the mold, so you've got both sides of that. Is that normal, or do you typically have someone that would handle the personal injury side and then someone handles the real estate side?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. There's a lot of people that actually do that. They split it up, and one attorney says I'm only taking the mold side, one attorney says I'm only taking the personal injury side, or
right.
We won't handle both. The good thing about our firm is that we can handle both at one.
Right.
We know how to handle both aspects, and mold is kind of a tricky subject. Not a lot of attorneys will take those on. They kind of don't see quote unquote value in it,
mm-hmm.
where it is. I take those on trying to help every tenant, help everyone that is in need. And there are needs. There's a lot of people experiencing those mold issues and they just don't know where to go.
Right.
So fortunately, I can kind of be a catch-all and help them with their real estate and their personal injury. They don't have to shop around. They don't have to go to different attorneys, and it's all in one place.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I imagine that would help too, because you do know the both sides of it so well. That's like working with, I've talked to a couple of personal injury attorneys who have also worked with insurance companies. And so they used to defend the insurance companies, right. So they got to see that side of it, but now they get tired of doing that and want to help the people that are not getting paid by insurance companies. So
yeah, unfortunately, I also had insurance defense experience. I did practice that for 2.5 years when I first graduated and passed the bar. So I have that experience as well. So that, now that you're talking about that as well, it's kind of, what makes me a little bit unique. I have a little bit of everything, my own
right.
business experience, as well as real estate, personal injury, and then the insurance defense. So, I can see it from all angles, and I know when an insurance company will push, when they won't push,
right.
When it's actually worth pushing forward, when it's not. Some clients, they don't want to take that path on litigation, rightfully so, because they don't want to wait years and take years off their life and put all that time in.
Right.
So getting a settlement makes sense for them because they want to be rid of this. They don't want to deal with the stress and anxiety anymore.
Yeah.
Which is rightfully so.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's not always just the money that can be made or anything else. The stress, the livelihood. What's this doing to your life? What's the quality of life as you're going through this process?
Yeah, that's a big value of it. Quality of life.
Right. So, what made you decide to pursue a career in law?
So when I was younger, my mom was the first person to say, "You'd probably be good at this." Then as I got a little bit older, unfortunately, my grandfather had an auto accident, auto versus pedestrian. He was a pedestrian, that he was involved in a major accident. And I kind of saw the toll it took on his life and how it really changed his life, completely, not even slightly, completely. Unfortunately, he had to have his arm amputated. So I saw first. Real estate, I own my own commercial property, and family has always been involved in real estate. So I was kind of born and bred in that.
Yeah.
Mixing the two together just made sense.
That's good. Yeah, it's amazing how people can take their life path and put these different stories together and then see. And I'm sorry to hear that you had to have somebody personally go through that, but at least then it gives you a real passion and must make your story better when you're talking to people too that understand that that's where you're coming from.
Yeah, they understand that I'm not just selling them some pipe dream. It's something that I've lived with myself.
Right. Yeah, you've seen it firsthand. So cool. So when it comes to law, I mean, it can be incredibly overwhelming, intimidating. I'm sure as a lawyer, with trying to keep up with law, keep up with changes, but particularly for someone who has to talk to a lawyer and hire somebody. So what do you find are some of the biggest misconceptions in the marketplace?
There's a lot. Honestly, there's a lot. I mean, one of them is that, if you hire a contingency attorney, they're just going to take your money and run.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just talked to somebody yesterday on the matter, and they had told me that they spent upwards of 15,000 on hourly fees. Whereas if they were going forward with a contingency attorney, they wouldn't have paid anything.
Right.
You're partnering on that. And then on the other side of things, in terms of real estate, what I like to do is, it's something that I thought of when I was practicing, and it's just something that makes sense business-wise and on a larger scale, is I offer my clients a flat fee pricing on a lot of matters. Obviously not everything, but on a lot of real estate matters, it's a flat fee because they want to know, this is how much I'm paying and this is what I'm going to pay no matter what, start to finish, right? So, it may take a little bit more time than I anticipate, a little bit less time, but they know one way or another, whatever it is, whatever it takes, this is what their cost is going to be.
Right.
So a lot of people have misconception that an attorney is just going to bill you hourly and just rack up the bills, and you're going to pay them more than you're going to pay for the case. And unfortunately, there are some attorneys that do that and give us a bad name. But I think if you can find the right attorney that works for you, and someone that's able to offer you creative and flexible, or even contingency, which is general pricing, it can make more sense for you, and you can get the results you deserve.
Right. I guess too many people read the book, The Firm. That was played by Tom Cruise. The same thing, the billing, these exorbitant hours. But yeah. So how much do you think is driven by media? I know it sounds probably silly, but I have to imagine a lot of people have in their head, I think especially when it comes to personal injury, they have in their head either, number one, something they've seen in a movie, or number two, they see these billboards with these cases of, just awarded $5 million or $3 million, something like that, which, hey, I slipped, I should be getting millions of dollars. And it's not necessarily, what probably happened to the people that were awarded millions is not anything anyone wants to go through. But
right.
What misconceptions in that sense do you see based on what's out there in media in terms of movies, things like that, or media from competitors or the industry itself?
I mean, media in terms of movies and things of that nature, I think one of the misconceptions is that you see attorneys that are just, yelling and screaming, and it doesn't have to be like that. Right. There's no need for anybody to lower themselves to those kind of standards. You can always, maintain your dignity and professionalism.
Right.
Have some kind of, understanding and appreciation for both sides. So that's what I try to do, one. And then in terms of the billboards and everything, you're right. I mean, people see those and they think, oh, I had something small. Let me get $5 million, and that's something that I try and stay away from. Yeah. If a potential client comes in and says, I got injured or this happened, I try and investigate fully, because you don't want to be that attorney that files on something that has no basis.
Right.
And you're just trying to, get some kind of compensation for someone. When on the other side, you don't know, is it a small business? Is it a family-owned business? You don't really know. So obviously, if anybody deserves compensation on this factual basis and merit, 100% they deserve it. But trying to filtrate and filter out what is valid and what's not valid, and being honest to potential clients and telling them, look, this may be the case, but they didn't do anything wrong, or they did do something wrong. Being honest. So I think being honest and valuing keeping people's expectations. Right.
Yeah, that's. I think one of the problems we run into is sunshine doesn't sell, right? So it's in media and anything we see, it's always these big, glorious cases, whatever. And certainly movies, it's going to be the people screaming and everything, because if it's subdued, no one's interested. They don't. But like you said, that's not the reality. I actually served on a murder trial when I was probably late 20s here in Georgia, and it was a young girl was up on charges. She had killed her boyfriend at the time. It was crazy, and it was such a subdued situation. It was great. It actually ended very quickly. There were two people up on trial. One of them turned on the other. And I think we were done in 4 days. It was nothing at all like and I know that's not the norm, but it was nothing at all like you would ever have expected from going into, the courtroom doesn't look the same. The people aren't acting the same. There was certainly some drama in itself, but it was very laid back by comparison. And that was a murder trial. So.
Yeah, it's nice when the legal system works the way it's supposed to.
Right. Yeah. Well, good. And, it takes people like you in there doing it and making sure that it doesn't get to that. So what do you think is an ideal case for you? Maybe one from real estate, one from personal injury. Maybe it's a combined case, like for a mold case, something like that. What do you consider to be an ideal case for you?
I'll talk about mold since it's kind of a crossover. I think in those instances, I always want somebody truthful, somebody honest,
Mm-hmm.
somebody telling me exactly what happened, not telling me what I want to hear, telling me what the actual facts are, because the facts are going to come out regardless.
Right.
So I want somebody that's going to tell me what actually happened, that is going to tell me, obviously, you don't recall everything word for word or day by day, but a factual, recollection of what happened, even if it was that they had some kind of fault in it.
Right.
Just, accurate, factual, and honest. And
Right.
that, understanding that it's okay if they did something wrong, but we have to be honest with everyone, and we have to be fair with everyone, and we have to have reasonable expectations of what's going to come out of that.
Right. Yeah, I imagine it's a lot worse to obviously it's a lot worse to have it come up in court from the prosecutors from the other side,
Yeah.
rather than just knowing going in and having a defense for it and knowing the full story.
Yeah, and you can always go into it and attack the fact that this is what happened, even if
Right.
they were negligent or wrong or whatever it may be. We can attack that and understand and explain why.
Right.
So, honesty is always the most important thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, how often do you find someone you just find out later they didn't tell you something? Probably maybe they were embarrassed, or it's probably not usually they just forget. Right. There's some reason that they didn't tell you.
Yeah, you never know what the reason is, but there are times where they don't remember, or they don't recall, or they
Mm.
just forgot to mention that, oh, the other side did this, and then I reacted this way, and that reaction may have been what transferred liability from one side to the other, or what
Okay.
made something happen. So it's important to always be honest, and
Right.
even if they are at fault, or if they were in the wrong or scared, at least we'll know about it, and we can help them go through that.
Right. So, what's one of your most memorable cases?
That's a good one. I think I had to be, uh, representing tenants, smaller tenants in leases, specifically, franchisees that just start and they're trying to build the American dream.
Mhm.
That's always the nicest thing to do, to try and help someone that's a small business. This is their first venture into business, and you're really protecting them and helping them in their lease, getting started, getting on the right foot to hopefully make that American dream a reality. That's always the best feeling.
Do you see right now with everything that's going on with COVID? Obviously, there's a lot of different things that we haven't seen before, where your people are protected; they can't be evicted. But then, what do you do with the landlord who has a business to run? I think oftentimes we think of these people as they're all loaded. They're not. I was a landlord way back when. I definitely wasn't loaded. And you get excited as a landlord. What I was doing, I was probably overextending myself, thinking this is great, this is never going to go down, and this is back 2006 when things did start going back down. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're a business owner, but who would have known what's going on now? And so, have you seen an uptick in certain types of cases, or how cases are changing with what's going on now?
There's a lot of landlord-tenant disputes, like you mentioned, with everything going on, the uncertainty. Unfortunately, for both sides, I mean, for tenants, they're suffering significantly. Their sales are down. They're not even able to open in a lot of places. And on the landlord side, like you said, they have a mortgage to pay. They're often not billion-dollar hedge funds,
Right.
and they have things to pay. So it's a difficult spot. It really is. And unfortunately, there's only been certain assistance to a certain extent. And, there's not an ability for both the landlord and tenants to have everything covered and not have to worry about this. So finding that middle ground of something that makes sense for the landlord and something that's fair to the tenant is really the most common thing that's coming up right now.
Yeah, it's got to be a real challenge, I would think. So,
Yeah.
and neither, I think in both cases, they both should be protected somehow, but how do you do that? And are these protections going to go away? So,
Yeah,
it's crazy times. So,
definitely.
what's one piece of advice you wish you were given when you just started your career?
Uh, the biggest piece of advice I wish I was given is to always look at both sides. Like I said, when I first started out, I was insurance defense. I was looking for, defense side, and then switching over to plaintiff side. Now I'm looking at plaintiff side.
Yeah.
Having that experience now of defense and plaintiff is much easier to navigate because I have an experience with both sides.
Right.
So if you're able to, and it's a possibility to have both sides, experience with both sides, I think it gives you a huge benefit. Both sides of things, you see both sides. You see what one side is looking for. You see what the other is looking for. You can kind of see 2 steps ahead. And that would be the most important thing. Not to only think about your side. Think about both sides, evaluate both sides, and have experience on both sides if you can, so that you can really understand both sides, not just, in theory.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, even just strategically knowing, hey, this is what they're going to come at me with because that other side. For instance, you having experience with insurance, what the insurance company is going to do within reason, obviously, not in every detail, but you get a very good general sense of what they're going to do so that it can help you with your approach.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know the lay of the land.
Right. So one last question. What piece of advice would you give to someone if they're unsure if they have a case or if they should proceed and move forward by hiring an attorney?
Really think about what kind of representation you want. I know there's billboards all over, there's commercials, there's ads. Those commercials, TVs, and ads, nothing against them, but if you're looking to have one-on-one communication with an attorney and have someone represent you and be able to call them and speak with them, you don't want one of those big firms because you're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
On the other hand, if you think you need a big firm that's going to step in, really throw resources at everything, those are good places to go. So really understand that every case is different based on what you're looking for. It's really like shopping for a car, shopping for a house. You need to know what it is that you want. If you want that individual one-on-one attention and you want to be able to call somebody and you want to be able to have that interaction with them, it's important that you look for someone that can give you that.
Right.
So don't look at the billboards and say, I'm going to be talking to the guy on the billboard, because in all reality, you're not going to.
Right.
But if you think that you need someone that's going to throw resources and expend, numerous hours and have a huge team and you're a really complex matter, it may be worth it to look into that and to talk to them, and then not only talk to the guy that you see on the billboard, but also their team.
Yeah.
So really understanding what it is you're looking for, looking into the actual specific person you're working with,
right?
Not just an image, but who you're really working with.
Right. Working with a person, not a brand that sunk millions and millions into advertising, which, and more power to them if they want to do it, but that's, right. That's a different company entirely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, that's about it. Go ahead and tell me what's the best way to get in touch with you if anyone needs to reach out and get some help.
Yeah. So, phone, email, text, checking out my website. We're just relaunching it. It's www.mehdlaw.com. And then we have another partnership advertising at crashcounsel.com. crashcounsel.com has our contact info on there. Email, reach out, submit a free request for consultation. I always do free consultations. Even if I'm not going to take the case on, I'll at least try and help you as much as I can and give you at least some kind of information to help you better navigate.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's huge help. I appreciate it. So I'll make sure that I add Crash Counsel to the description as well. Obviously, MedLaw will have there, but we'll add Crash Counsel too, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's it. I appreciate your time, and it's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. You're awesome.
Of course. Thanks, man.